Getting ready to mark these for cutting. I have my combination square set at 3/4 of an inch. I have a set of dividers set also at 3/4 of an inch. I'll put that right there on the end, and because I have so many of these to do is the reason I went to the trouble of setting this divider and this combination square. For sure, you could do this all with just a compass, set it at 3/4, get it close, and then mark it. But because I had 48 of them to do, actually 48 4, I had 52 of them to do. Anyway, just set that right there like that and make a mark, and it's right where I want it to be. So let's take that, make a mark, take that, make a mark, pull out my handy dandy compass. Widen it out just a little bit. And draw a semicircle for cutting. Now we'll do the other end. Second verse, same as the first. I think you get the idea. And I'll bring you back for the next step. Now I have all these marked. I don't know how well you can see that. It's there, you can see it. Now we need to cut those, not quite to the line. I'll finish them up at the disc fender. So, just like that, repeat 4 dozen times, and I'll see you later. Okay, I've cut all these off real close to the line, and now I'm going to finalize them. I didn't pay a lot of attention to how close I got them at the bandsaw because I knew I'd have to do this anyway. So we'll take the disc sander here and just true these up, smooth them up a little bit. And that's one, pretty much. Just a repeat. I found out that if I turn these over and do the back side real lightly, it takes off the fuzzies of what's basically sander tip out. Pretty much just a repeat for all the rest of them. So I'll see you when I come back to the next step. All 48 of them are nice and rounded, nice and smooth. Next step is to drill the holes. Now, one important thing when drilling these holes, don't get out of hand. 4 of them for each stand. So I've got 4 stands here, so there'd be 16 of them, but 4 of them do not get a hole in each end because 4 of them are the bottoms. So the first one I did, I wasn't thinking, and I drilled a hole in both ends every one. Oh, now comes the drilling. To expedite this process, this drilling process as much as I can, I've clamped a couple boards to my drill press here, and I've set it up so that when I butt that up in that corner right there, the drill bit drops right down where I want to drill. So let's cut this on. Drill one end. And drill the other. So there we go. Now what I think I will do is, just so that I don't get into my table, I'll set the stop on my drill press so that it stops right there, and repeat that 48 times. So I think what I'll do is set you out of the road and get to drilling. I think where I left off yesterday, I was getting ready to drill these holes in the center of all of these side pieces. And just to make sure I've said so, I have made a mark 15 inches from this end and 15 inches from this end because I've lost a little bit in sanding and cutting. And I'm going to drill right smack dab in the middle of those 2 marks. With the same drill bit that I drilled the ends with 48 times. So here we go. And all 48 now have a center hole. So actually those pieces are done. Next on the agenda is to make the 11 each dowels that go in between, which are right at 40 inches, and like I said earlier, one of them is 1.5 inches longer, so now we'll get to work on those. Okay, I have all of my dowels cut. 11 for each one. 10 of them are 40 inches long, and one of them is 41.5 inches long. Now I have set my saw, I set to a 45-degree angle, put the fence on the opposite side. I'm not sure, I think most saws angle the other direction, so you wouldn't have to switch the fence to the other side. And I've just cut a sample to see if I had it set right, and it looks okay. I'll show you what I did. I've got the square end here. Turn the saw on. Turn the vacuum on. And there we go, just like that. So I have to cut, see there's 11, 44, yeah, I have to cut 44 of those now. So I'll take you along for the first one. Now I'm going to cut these just about like I did that sample. Put that over there out of the way. I'm going to cut from one end about halfway down the stick on all four sides, and then I'm going to flop it in for end. That way I don't have to reach past the blade doing this cut. So, saw's on, vacuum's on. And I missed one. Thought I did. There we go. So there is one octagon-shaped dowel. And I'm pretty sure that that's cheaper than going out and buying dowels. Now, this whole project could be made with hand tools, and you could just buy these dowels. I don't reckon it'd be that expensive. Now, I'm using the highest quality pine lumber that I can buy at the big box store so that I can get wood that doesn't have any knots in it, mostly for this reason right here. Because if one of these had a knot, you just well not use it, because it's not going to hold up, because these have to hold clothes, wet clothes. Now that's pretty stout really, and they will hold quite a bit. The store-bought one of these that my wife has, these are 1/4 inch dowels. Now they're not as long, they're only about maybe 2 foot long, where these are 40 inches, but this is plenty stout. So now repeat that 43 more times and this step will be done. And this is the last step, other than drilling a small hole in the end of each one of these to accept the screws so that it doesn't bust them out. Other than that, this project is done except for assembly, and that's pretty simple. So, well, I take that back. I do have to make the top, so we'll be back for that. So I'll get to cutting on these, 44 more of these, and then we'll go to the next step, which is making the top. So we'll be back. And there they are, 44 of those. Now I misspoke a little bit ago when I was talking about the length of these. I said that for each one, there's 10 of them 40 inches and one 41 and a half, but actually 2 of them need to be shorter for the top. So I'll be cutting 8 of these shorter, probably by about 3 inches. I have set this on there like it's going to be. Of course, it's upside down, but that's how it's going to be. On one of the 40-inch rods is how these attach. I'm going to allow 1 inch at each end, which is 2 inches. 3/4 for that would be 1.5 inches, would be 3.5. So I need to cut 3.5 inches off of 2 of these dowel rods each for each of the 4 that I have. I need to cut 2 more of these 1.5 inch boards for each one of these, so I'll need to cut 8. 8 of these 1.5 inch boards that are 20 inches, let's see, it'd be 21, I can't remember, I'll have to go back and look. I'll have to go back and look at my plans, which are all in my head anyway, but I'll have to open up that book. Sometimes it's a dangerous book to open, but we must do it. So all the dowels are cut to octagon shape anyway. It's just about time to start assembly. Okay, I have on this end a mark already where the next hole will be. Up here at this end, though, it's not going to be clear at the end. I want it to be 21 inches on center. So I'll take my tape measure and put it at 2 and come up here at 23 and make another mark. So that will be where the other hole is. So I'll mark all 8 of these. Just for making 1, you only need 2 of these. Once again, I am making 4. And start it again. There we go. Now, I have not moved. Let that race truck go by. I have not moved the fence that I put on my drill press here, so it's still in the same spot that it needs to be, in the right spot, I'll say. I've put a 22 millimeter Forstner bit in here. I bought a set of metric Forstner bits when I was building my forge blower because I needed a metric size to press the bearings into. And it was just as cheap, if not cheaper, to buy a whole set than it was to buy one. And I thought I could use them for other things, and here's such a case. So I've got a 22 millimeter. You can do the conversion if you need to. Could have that set just a little bit deeper, but it's okay. So, can you see that okay? I need to drill, if you're building one, 2 of them like that. Like I said, those holes are on a 21-inch center. So I'll get to drilling. You can watch if you want. Now there's just one final cut on these, and that's on this end here. Need to come off of the hole we just drilled and not break the lead on the pencil, and make 2 45-degree cuts coming up to that circle. So I'll mark all of my top pieces here. And now to make these cuts. This is for the top arm. Okay, I have drilled a small hole in all of these 3-inch long blocks that I made just from some scrap I had left over from cutting these. And that hole will allow that Craig screw, which is what I'm going to use to attach these because they've got nice heads on them, and swivel on that real nice. Now I will attach this to these in no special spot. Now I'm not going to drill a pilot hole in these. These Craig screws are kind of a self-drilling screw, and I think it'll be just fine. It won't split out. Back that out a little bit more. I just want to put that on there so that it overlaps that front just a little bit. So we'll attach these. Just a little bit more snug than that. You want them to be able to move. Freely. That's not so bad right there, but you want them to stay put. So let's get to attaching these on. Since I last left you, I have taken 8, count them 8 of these dowel rods, cut 3.5 inches off the end of them. So these will be used in conjunction with these pieces to make the tops. I need to drill 2 pilot holes in each one of these for screws. Since it's 21 inches on center from this hole to this hole, from these 2 holes, then if I want 2 dowel rods in here, they would be 7 inches apart. I've set my dividers to 3.5 inches because they will not go to 7. So I can start right there, put a hole right there, put a hole right there, and if we go ahead and walk this out, you'll see that that comes to the center. So we just need to do that. Same exact thing to each one of these boards. and then drill them. So I'll be back. Before I get to assembling here, one thing I need to do is drill a hole in the end of all these dowels. And when I got to that point, I thought I'd talk a little bit about screws. I'm using these cabinet screws, 8 by 2.5 for this, mostly because they've got a pretty good size washer head on them. And they're kind of a copper looking screw. They look nice. Anyway, pilot holes. I drilled a 5/32. Oop. You okay there? You okay? Okay. I drilled a 5/32 in hole in all of these boards to accept the shank of the screw. Okay? Because I want the screw to go in there, and this hole should be about the same size as the shank. So that's what I picked. Now, on the threads of the screw, you have a major diameter, which is the outside of the threads, and you have a minor diameter, which is the diameter at the bottom of the threads. The screw inside the wood, where it's doing the holding, you should drill a hole that is the same size as that minor diameter, which it's easy to find out. You can put the drill bit on there and line it up. If you line it up behind it and you don't see the drill bit on either side, or if you line it up on the other side and you don't see the minor diameter on either side, you see it there. I'll line that up like that. I'll line that up like that. That is going to be the pre-drill for the screw. Now, somebody will say, well, if you didn't drill it, you get more holding power. Actually, that is wrong. When you pre-drill the hole for that screw and you thread it down in there, the only part of that screw that does any holding is the threads. That minor diameter, the inside of those threads, does not do any holding. The only part that does holding is the threads. So if you pre-drill that and drill it down in there, the threads are holding all the way around, 360 degrees all the way around that screw. If you don't drill it, put that in there, it would spread the fibers like this. Because of the grain in the wood, it would spread like this. So you would be getting, in this case, you would be getting the threads holding on the top and the bottom, but not on the sides. So that is the reason you want to pre-drill in wood. I'm just going to do this with the hand drill. I'm going to put that right in the center. And drill all of those, pre-drill them to accept those screws. Plus this will help them to keep them from splitting out. Let's go over the parts list of everything you need, and also how I did it and how you could do it without a lot of power tools. First off, each one takes 2 of these. This is what I used. You can use anything else. 1.25" Kreg screws. 22 of these cabinet screws that are 8 by 2.5 inches. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 dowels. These are just about 7/8 inch dowels. That's what you could use. You could even probably get away with 3/4 inch dowels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them are 40 inches long. 2 of them are 36.5 inches long, and 1 of them is 41.5 inches long. Now, the length of these is not a big deal as long as you have 8 of them that are the same length, 1 that's 1.5 inches longer, and 2 that are 3.5 inches shorter. That's the big deal. Doesn't matter how long these are, this just determines the width of your rack. 1.5 by 3/4 boards. You can buy these already cut 1.5 by 3/4. I made all this from premium quality pine from the big box store so that I could get it without knots. These two are, yes, 23.5 inches long, and that's what they started out. We have 2 holes drilled on a 21-inch center that are slightly bigger, okay, slightly bigger than what your dowels are. And then 2 holes drilled at 7-inch centers from those end holes. We have 12 30-inch long, 1.5 by 3/4 inch, 4 of which have 2 holes drilled, 1 in the center and 1 at the end. 8 of them that have 3 holes drilled, 1 at each end and 1 at the center. I have all of the holes drilled in the ends of these rods, and now it's time for some assembly. So I'm going to start by assembling the top. So let's get after it. That's the top assembled. The 4 bottom pieces do not have holes in one end. Pieces, put them right there. Once you get 3 of them together, the rest of them are fairly easy just to lay down flat and do it this way. So I need That's the last one of the uprights. Now, while I've got this over here, this is where the 2 outside pieces are at. So I need my long one, and it's right here. This one is the one, it's 1.5 inches longer. I'm only going to attach it on one end right now. And this one you can tighten up because it doesn't move. Now the reason I only fasten one end is because we need to thread the top on there. So making sure that those hooks point down. We'll take this right here. Thread that on there like that. Get a screw. Y'all be careful out there, you hear?